everyone. Hello, hello. Can we just have everybody sit on your designated spot? We're having a very special year this time round. I know everybody is very excited, but we do need to stick to the COVID rules of non-mingling. So kindly sit on the seat that's designated for you. Can I also draw you to the attention of a stack of photographs on your table? And they are photographs in remembrance of Mrs. N.W. So please take a look at them. Okay, this is a very nice bundle of photographs on your table. You also have a book, The Tiger Remembers, written by Mrs. N.W. So would you be able to bring it out and use this time to remember her? Our events will start shortly at 12 o'clock. And lunch will be served at 1 o'clock. Yeah, 1 minute. Oh, you let me know. Yeah, please. A very good afternoon to our guest of honor, Miss Yolene Wee, daughter of Mrs. Ann Wee, Miss Shui James, granddaughter of Mrs. Ann Wee, Professor Loy Hui Che, Vice Dean of Students Life FASS, Associate Professor Esther Goh, Head of Social Work NUS, faculty members of past and present, alumni of School of Social Work, all distinguished guests, and not forgetting our live feed audience tuning in this moment. My name is Jenny, and I will be your MC this afternoon. Today, we gather to honor the 3 award winners of the NWE Social Work Alumni Award 2020. This award is made possible by the dedication to social work in Singapore that Mrs. NWE had left a truly memorable legacy. Mrs. NWE passed away peacefully at the age of 93 on 11th December 2019, just 3 months after Dr. Rosalind Au and myself had the honor of receiving our trophies from her hands. This month is Mrs. NWE's first year death anniversary. We are honored to have her family members join us in remembrance and celebration of her life. As a start, we would like to have something lighthearted in remembrance of Mrs. Wee. So we're going to have a Kahoot game, and I'm not sure how many of us know what this is about. Show of hands, anybody has played this before? Not too many. It's probably my second or third time as well. So let's all get ourselves started and acquainted, then we can go and tell people that, hey, I've done this before. Okay, so in this game, we have prepared 9 questions in relation to Mrs. Wee and in remembrance of her. And here you will see that there is this web app and website address. So I will need you to take out your phones, prepare your phones. And how it goes for this game is that for those who have the fastest finger and at the fastest time, at the most accurate answer that you give, you will receive a prize. Right, so the top 3 winners will receive $20 Grab food voucher each. And for these, our live stream audience can also participate, so please join us. Okay, everybody has your phone up already? Please take a look at the Kahoot IT, very clever. I see many of you putting your names and masking yourself. We will need to identify you if you are the winner, right? Okay, so key in the Kahoot website, key in the game pin number, the 3894042, put in your name, and maybe just give me a wave. I can't see those in live stream, but give me a wave if you are all set up. Woo. Anybody needs more time figuring out your devices? I had to spend quite some time when I first played this game too, so it's okay really. Wow, more and more names. I am not here. Who is that? Is that emoticon also possible with a ghost there? Oh my gosh, all right. Okay. Okay, are we waiting a bit more? More? Okay. Right, we have 40. Now, back to 39. 41. Oh, love and we, nice. Hey, Esther got in. 41, 42, 43. Okay, are we all quite set here? All ready? Okay, let's roll with 9 questions. Okay, the first question we start off with. Two, one. When was Mrs. Anwi the head of social work department? What does R mean? You know, right? Okay, fastest finger and the most accurate answer. There's only one answer though. 2, 1. And the answer is 1967. Oh gosh. Okay, are we able to see the results again just now? It shows something, many of us do not know. Okay, it was, we had all sorts of answers there, right? But the answer is 1967. Right. Okay. All right. And in here, is that the fastest finger, Esther? Wow. Okay. But this is only one game, all right? So let me also just share with you that I understand that Mrs. Anwi introduced the psychology program into the faculty, and also the honors program, and as well as community and social work. We are all familiar who continued to flourish this particular program, our dear Dr. Basu. So personally, I had done the psychology modules. I'm also very thankful for the honors year, which I had the opportunity to write a thesis. And of course, under the good training and leadership from Dr. Basu's teaching in community social work. So I never knew back then who gave, who started this and where to give thanks to back then. So it is really nice that through this game, while we do the research, that we have found out more. And in you, we may not have time for everybody to talk, but do take this time also to think through about Mrs. Anwi's achievements as a head of social work. All right, let's go on to the second question. Are we all ready? Okay, second question is, what was Mrs. Anwi's middle name? Wow, middle name. Maiden name, right? Middle name. All right, 35 answers. Everybody get that? Elizabeth. Wow, so many of us got it right. Not too difficult at all, this question. Okay, wonderful. And who's the fastest? Esther again? Esther again? Real or not? Real Okay lah, computer generator, right? Oh, let's see. Okay. All right, let's go on to the third question. Question 3. What is Mrs. Anwi's maiden name? Maiden name. Is this more difficult or easier? I see some are like, equally blur. Okay, which one is this? We have 5 more seconds. Some are still thinking, the answers are slowly coming in. Wilcox! Not bad. We still have most of you who knows this name. All right, and that is her maiden name, Wilcox. All right, let's go on. Okay, let's see again. What? Are you sure you all never do anything? No? Okay, but we have new names up here. All right, so keep it up. Okay, let's go on to question 4. You will have to look at this photograph. If you can spot, guess which one in this photo is Mrs. Anwi. There are a few circled there. A bit small though, if you can see. A, B, C, or D. They are all Caucasians. Wow. Okay, and the right answer is C. Can we look at the picture again? No? Cannot, sorry. You cannot look back at the picture again. So, yeah. Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, so C, where's C? Right up there. Okay, resemblance, yeah? Okay, thank you. And we have the winner. The fastest finger is... okay. Esther didn't enter, is it? All right. Rachel, okay, keep it up. Right, let's go on to question 5. This is also a photo. Where was the photo taken? Yes, where is this place? And quite a unique photo here. Did you realize that many people are dressed in a certain color? Right, where is this? Yes, I believe most of us will have gotten it correct, right? At the Bukit Timah campus. Right. Anybody can spot who is in this photo? Did I hear it must be a Chinese New Year photo? That's our guess too. Anybody can verify this for us? Are you spotting yourself? Mr. Ang, are you spotting yourself? Spotting others? Anyone wants to shout out who you saw? Who you see? Anybody? Dr. Niam? Right there, right? On top in red, right? Mr. John Ang? Okay. Anybody else here? All right. Want to sit on it a little while? Look at this picture. Okay, nice memories. And this is at Bukit Timah campus, which I suppose that not all of us had the fortune of being there. Not as familiar. Okay, shall we move on to the question 6 then? Oh yes, and then fastest finger. Whoa! Whoa! Jenny Bang! Okay, well done! Okay. Keep it up. Let's go on to question 6. Now this one, which year was the book published? You have the book with you, huh? Literal hard copy for you to look at. Giveaway question, but you have to be the fastest finger. Right. Answers are coming in. Okay, we close off. And the year is, 2017, but many of us mistaken it for a year later. 2018. Alright, so the correct year is 2017 for the book to be published. And let's look at who's the fastest. UK. Who's this, Kumar? Oh, wow. Online, I see. Hi. Keep it up. Alright. Okay, let's move on to question 7. Which country was Mrs. Anne Wee born? I believe the family members are most familiar, but whether you be the fastest finger, that's another thing, huh? Okay, where was she born? Closing. Any more? Closing. The United Kingdom? We still mistaken her from other countries too. Most of us got it right. Okay, right. And let's look at this. Shui. Of course, right? Yes, the family knows best. All right. Thank you. Let's move on to question 8. Which year did Mrs. Anne Wee move to Singapore? I see Shui doing this. Of course you know. Which year was she? Wow. Alright, closing. This again shows that many of us are just guessing, right? Okay, 1950. Right. So 1950 is a year, and who is the fastest? Is that Shui again? I saw her do this immediately when the question came up. It's got to be her. So may I just let everyone know that Mrs. Anne Wee arrived in Singapore from her native United Kingdom in 1950 to be reunited with her future husband at the time, Mr. Harry Lee Wee, whom she met in the University of Cambridge. And I hope that our research is done correctly. Okay, all right. Thank you. And now let's move on to our very last question, question 9. Some catching up to do. Anybody? What dialects do we know that Mrs. Anne Wee can speak? Out. Have you spoken to her in these languages, in these dialects before? Closing. All right, that's Hokkien and Cantonese. So quite many of us do know the answer. So how many of you have conversed with Mrs. Wee in these dialects before? Wow, which one is she better in, Hokkien or Cantonese? Obviously you know, right? Okay, right, so and let's take a look at the results then. Oh, this is the podium already. Woo! UK, third winner. Jenny Bong, woo! And first winner is Shu Wei, right? Congratulations! So we have two of our winners right here, and then we have another live stream professor who is here as the third winner. Okay, so we need to look at these three winners. We have some instructions to follow. And let's look at the next slide where we will put down the email address for you to follow up with. So Jenny Bong and Shu Wei, please take this down. Communicate back with Hai Kyung, and by the deadline of 30th December and claim your prize of, do you remember what's the prize? $50, is it? $10? $20 of Grab food voucher. Okay, right. Okay, thank you very much for this game, in this participation. Lots of laughter that's going on. So hope you have enjoyed the game and triggered many of your memories of Mrs. Envy. Personally, I remember her warm smile and her laughter. And I believe that if she's present here with us, I'm sure she will be enjoying herself reminiscing this way too. Yeah. Right, so let's move on. And now we have a very important person. We need to bring her on stage. Let us invite Associate Professor Esther Goh on stage for a welcome speech. Esther, please.
It was so fun, isn't it? Thank you for participating. I had fun, but I disqualified myself after the second question. To be fair to everybody. A very good afternoon, Professor Loy Hui Che, Vice Dean of Students Life in FASS, Miss Yulin Wee, daughter of Mrs. N. Wee, and Sue James, granddaughter of Mrs. Wee, all past winners, alumni, friends, including those who are with us via live stream. Welcome to the NUS Social Work Alumni Award Ceremony 2020. Because of the current pandemic situation, we are only allowed to invite 50 guests attending in person. But thanks to technology, we are able to have more guests gracing this occasion via live stream. We are gathered here today to acknowledge the three winners of the NW Social Work Alumni Award presented in honor of Mrs. NW by NUS in recognition of excellence in social work. Congratulations, Marlene, Teresa, and Tina. You have done Mrs. Wee and the department proud with the excellent work you have done in practice and for significance and sustained impact that you have created for the vulnerable members of our society. Today is also an apt occasion for us to celebrate Mrs. Wee's life and the legacy she has left behind. It seems surreal to many of us that Mrs. Wee has already departed. Although it has been a year, it feels like she's still with us. Mrs. Wee contributed significantly to the social service development in Singapore in respect to the training and education of social workers, earning her the title of Mother of Social Work Education in Singapore. She was the longest-serving head of department from 1967 to 1986 and produced at least 4 generations of heads of department, namely Professor S. Vasu, Associate Professor Nyam Thi Liang, Dr. Roslyn Alf, and myself. As the mother of social work education, she often urged us, the social work teachers, to make regular field visits to students on placement. She believed that this will connect the social work teachers with the practice fields and help us to better bridge classroom teaching and learning with real-life practice context. She often reminisces how in the early years of the department, where there were inadequate qualified social workers in Singapore to supervise our students for field placement, as a result, many of the students were sent or placed in different parts of Malaya. With this arrangement, the faculty members from the department would have to spend their summer visiting the students. One of the field placement sites was the Aborigine department that provided community development for a settlement that could only be reached via a 2-hour small boat ride from Kuala Lipis up a tributary of the Great Pahang River. Besides emphasizing on the ground training, Mrs. Wee placed equal importance on academic training. She could remember all the research that her students have done for the Diploma in Social Service graduation thesis in the 1950s and 60s. She often hailed S.R. Nathan's thesis titled "A Research Paper on the Nature and Extent of Work Done in Singapore for the Welfare of Merchant Seamen, 1954, as one that created the greatest social impact. His paper revealed the poor living condition of seamen in Singapore, which eventually led to the establishment of the Asian Seamen Registry in 1956 by the British government. We were often reminded that social work researchers have to do research that would impact lives. Mrs. Wee's intellectual curiosity and prowess continued into her 90s. A book, A Tiger Remembers, the book that you have in front of you, was selected as the finalist for the Singapore Book Awards in 2017. For live stream guests, you would have received it, or it could be on the way to you, this book. Professor David Jones, the former president of the International Federation of Social Work, wrote a review for this book and published it in the British Journal of Social Work. He accorded this book with high praise. In 2004, Mrs. Wee authored the then only social work textbook in Singapore, Social Work in the Singapore Context, which was applauded by the Straits Times for plugging a big gap in the historical accounts of Singapore since the World War II. Mrs. Wee retired in 1986, but she continued to be personally invested in social work education. In 2015, 3 decades after her retirement, she donated a substantial sum to set up an endowed scholarship for graduate students pursuing Masters in Social Work in NUS. She saw the value of training future social work leaders through the program. She did not want any practitioners who had the potential to be leaders but could not afford the fees to be deprived of training. Many might not know or aware of the role and contribution she made in this, as she insisted that her name should not be mentioned as part of a scholarship during her lifetime. Hence, for the longest time, it was known as the Master in Social Work NUS Scholarship. It was only in January this year that we renamed it as NW Masters in Social Work Scholarship. To date, 16 students have benefited from her generous support in their graduate education. The legacy that Mrs. N.W., the mother of social work education, left behind is multifaceted. We celebrate the rich friendship, camaraderie, mentorship, and the never too old to learn spirit. As a mark of appreciation, we would like to invite all of you to pen down some words of thanks for Mrs. Wee and her family. We have prepared some cards for you to do so, which have been inserted into this book. So these cards will be collected at the end of the event and passed on to Miss Yulin and her granddaughter, Mrs. Wee's granddaughter. For guests joining us online, please pen your comments and thanks in the chat box. At this juncture, please join me in expressing our honor and love for Mrs. Anhui with a resounding applause. And please do indulge me as I represent all of us here to express our appreciation and gratitude for the work that Mrs. Wee has done for all of us and for generations beyond. Thank you, Mrs. Wee. We love you.
Thank you, Esther. It is now time to present to all of you our 3 award winners of this year 2020. I will proceed to do a citation for each of our 3 winners, and we present our first winner, Ms. Marlene Koh, Head of SAF Counseling Center, Chief Counselor, Ministry of Defense. Marlene Koh has spent her entire social work career in the SAF Counseling Center since her graduation from the NUS Bachelor's Program in Social Work in 1990. She started her career as a counselor, doing direct work, counseling, and helping servicemen with substance abuse, mental health, and relationship issues. Marlene took over the role as head of SCC, Chief Counselor, in 2015. Her passion to ensure that servicemen are being helped to fulfill their potential has driven her to forge partnerships with like-minded leaders in making professional counseling more accessible to those who need it. Under her watch, Marlene and her team have extended their reach to set up satellite centers in places of need, to bring immediate counseling care to support the recruits and to help them better adjust to military life. One of Marlene's contributions to the social service sector is the SAF Para-Counseling Scheme. Under her leadership, the scheme expanded and became professionalized with the A accreditation of the para-counselors preparatory course by SUSS. Para-counselors were recognized as an important avenue of help for servicemen to bring about a culture of care in the units. The scheme has been successful and became widely recognized by other agencies like SPF, SCDF, and ICA, who have also launched their own para-counseling schemes. Marlene is also head care under the National Care Management System, NCMS, as SAF has a well-devised critical incident stress management system, and with SCC having years of experience in managing servicemen and families in critical incidents, Marlene supports the training of care officers. She is also part of the National Care Hotline Supervisors team to guide duty care officers during this COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the heavy responsibilities at SCC, Marlene has contributed to social work education by supervising NUS social work interns for placement, as she believes in the importance of raising the next generation of social workers. Our second winner this year is Ms. Teresa Lee. I had the fortune of working with Teresa in the capacity of ADA and in dementia work. Right. Head Accreditation and Program Director, Singapore Association of Social Workers. Few can rival Teresa in her strong identification with the profession through the SASW, as evidenced from her level and years of voluntary involvement in the professional body. She has been active in SASW for more than 20 years, serving in various capacities on the Executive Committee as Chairperson, Public Relations Committee, representative to the Singapore Professional Centre, Chair of Disciplinary Board, and President for 2 terms. Teresa started her social work career with the NCSS, which was formerly known as Singapore Council of Social Service back then. She spent 19 productive years in the NCSS, straddling both direct and indirect work in staff and student education on top of her varied portfolios. She was involved in pioneer projects in providing rehabilitation, housing, early intervention program, special education, transportation, vocational training, sheltered and open employment for persons with disabilities. She has led in the setting up of centers and homes such as Apex Daycare Rehabilitation Center, Henderson Senior Citizens Home, Asian Women's Welfare Association Community Home, Margaret Drive Special School. She was actively engaged in conducting needs assessment, working with committees on program planning, implementation, and evaluation. In the last 19 years, she worked in the Alzheimer's Disease Association, ADA, as Deputy Chief Executive Officer. She was responsible to lead in the direct service programs in ADA, training, volunteer management, community work, regional and international relations, and board governance and administration. Teresa also represented ADA on committees such as the Ministry of Health's National Dementia Network and the Agency for Integrated Care ILTC Manpower Council, contributing to policymaking in dementia care. To name a few, her notable achievements in ADA include the setting up of the Caregiver Support Center, Dementia Helpline, Home-Based Intervention and Eldersit programs, and 2 Family of Wisdom centers. She is equally active in contributing to developing the pipeline of social workers, including providing supervision to social work students. Our third winner this year, Ms. Tina Hong. Senior Consultant, National Council of Social Services. Tina has made significant impact in the social service sector through indirect practice in policy formulation, implementation, and evaluation. She has been a strong advocate for the disability sector and was key in facilitating the 3 enabling master plans to enhance the services to persons with disabilities in our society. Specifically, she was pivotal in the policy formulation and implementation of the early intervention for infants and children, the EPIC program, in the first master plan, where services for children with disability were grossly inadequate. She played an important role in pushing for development of EPIC model and recommended for government funding. Today, there are 21 EPIC centers in Singapore, serving more than 3,000 children. Tina's relentless effort in advocating for funding, service provision, and evaluation for persons with disability deserve recognition. Beyond Singapore, Tina and her team brought their work in advocating for persons with disabilities to the UN CRPD. Singapore signed and ratified the UN CRPD in 2012 and 2013. In the recent years, Tina is responsible for the nationwide campaign Beyond the Label in destigmatizing persons with mental health issues, leading the staff from NCSS and gathering support from the community. Tina and her team also pioneered the Peer Support Specialist Scheme. And these are merely 2 of her many fruits of labor in serving the underprivileged through social policy changes. Tina's tireless pursuit for the well-being of the marginalized in almost 2.5 decades of commitment in NCSS allowed her to advocate, obtain resources, formulate funding policies, implement services, and evaluate the effects of the programs. She truly exemplifies the persistence, hard work, and the never-give-up spirit of social work. Tina. May we now invite our guest of honor, Ms. Yolin Wee, on stage to present the awards to our 3 winners. Ms. Wee. Thank you. To our first winner, Ms. Marlene Cole, on stage, please. Thank you, Marlene. And our second winner this year, Ms. Teresa Lee, on stage, please. Congratulations, Teresa. And our third winner, Ms. Tina Hong, on stage, please. Congratulations, Tina. And may we now invite Professor Loy on stage to present to, can we hold on, please? Ms. Yolin Wee, can we hold on, please? We'd like to have more of you on stage. We'd like to present to you a token of appreciation for spending time with us. Professor Loy. Thank you. Okay, please stay on stage. Thank you very much. Please stay on stage. We'll have a group photo with spacings allowed that should pass. So we would like Professor Loy and then Ms. Yolin Wee to just step one step in front. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we would like to invite our three winners to come up on stage to give us their speech individually. So we start off with Ms. Marlene. All for you. Thank you.
A very good afternoon, everyone. I want to say that this is an unexpected honor for me to be receiving the NUS Social Work Alumni Award. My experience with Mrs. NW dates back to my days as a social work student in NUS in the late 1980s. We were fortunate that she had continued to teach after she stepped down as head of the social work department. We remember Mrs. Wee to be a very passionate tutor who would constantly challenge us to do our part in social work wherever we are and to make a difference to those in need. We also noted that she was always full of energy whenever she shared about her work with various groups of people, despite being in her 60s. And at that time, to us young students, anything above 50 years old was considered old. So one of our classmates innocently asked Mrs. Wee then when she would retire. To us, retirement was not a bad word. It was something good, for that's when one gets to enjoy life. Mrs. Wee was visibly upset and asserted that she would continue to work for a long, long time. And she did, as she continued to write books and serve the community right till the end. I wish I'm able to tell Mrs. Wee today that I finally understand why she wished to work for a long, long time. I began my social career as a counselor in the SAF Counseling Center doing direct work. I remember that the young soldiers who came to me for counseling were around my age, and I was supposed to help them with their adjustment to military life and with their personal and family problems as a professional. I felt rather inadequate then, but did my best in helping each one of them. Over the many years, I found it meaningful and rewarding to see how some of these young men become more resilient as they learn to cope with the totally new environment and as they learn to cope with life challenges through counseling. And today, after many years, I've realized that these same young soldiers are my son's age. How time flies, yeah. Having spent my entire career in the SAF Counseling Center, my passion to ensure that young soldiers are being helped to fulfill their potential grew. It is not just about counseling individuals. My social education has taught me that I can be an advocate, a catalyst, and a leader to help create an environment where help is available and accessible to that last young soldier on the ground. Truly, these young soldiers, who are our Singaporean sons, will be husbands, fathers, and leaders tomorrow. National service is therefore a critical time for them to grow up from being boys to men. Therefore, like Mrs. Wee, I will continue to work for a long, long time. Why retire when you can still be useful as a helping hand to those in need? Why retire when you love what you do? And is it really work when you enjoy it so much? And as a final encouragement to our young aspiring social workers out there, every one of us has the power to serve and make a difference. And so do you. Just go with your passion, and you too can make that much needed difference wherever you are. Thank you, and I want to say that I'm deeply humbled and honored to receive this award.
Thank you, Marlene. Thank you, Marlene. Can you hear me? Just trying to avoid going up. Okay, right. Thank you, Marlene, for the wonderful speech, and we will now like to invite Teresa on stage as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mrs. Wee once said that social work is a profession and not a job involving tea and sympathy. In her book, A Tiger Remembers, I learned that she was born in 1926, the year of the tiger. And coincidentally, my mother, at 94 years old, was also born in the same year as her as a tiger. And my daughter, who is a social worker, is also a tiger. Well, I'm not a tiger. And all three of them are fire tigers. So I saw in Mrs. Wee a tiger who had the fighting spirit in her and who could handle anything that came by her way. And she saw also in every situation the positive sides of situations. I saw her as a person who is composed, calm, cool, and caring. And I admired her for her respect for diversities and social justice in the work that she had done as the founding mother of social work in Singapore. In reflecting the purpose and meaning of social work for me, It is when I, as a fieldwork educator, continue to share my training and experiences with students as they journey in their professional and personal development. When I, as an advocate, champion for the rights of people with disabilities to improve services, to enable them to have equal access to education, employment, and for a barrier-free environment, influencing policies, and when I, as an advocate for people living with dementia, to enable them and to enable us to listen to their voices, for them to be able to live well in the community, to increase awareness of dementia, to reduce stigma, and to respect them for what they are. Social work enables us to impact society. I'm honored and humbled to receive the NUS Social Work Alumni Award, and I will continue in her legacy as an advocate, educator, and champion. Thank you.
Let me try again. Is it working? No? All right. Thank you, Teresa. That was very inspiring, and the commitment that you have put down. Now let's have Ms. Tina Hong on stage, please.
Good afternoon. This is a little bit shiny, so I actually can't see you. So I have 5 minutes to get through this, but if I cry, it'll take longer, so you can send me positive energy. Thank you so much, thank you. Emeritus Professor Vasu, Prof. Loy Hui Chien, Vice Dean of Students Life, FASS, Prof. Esther Goh, Head of NUS Social Work Department, Ms. Jolene James, and Su Wei, Mrs. Wee's daughter and granddaughter, distinguished guests here, and those who are watching online. I am deeply honored to be one of the 3 recipients of the NUS Social Work Alumni Award 2020. My gratitude and appreciation to those responsible for this award to deem me worthy to be associated with Mrs. Wee and her memories. Mrs. Wee was the head of department at NUS. Okay, this is not how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to cry later, not now. Because I haven't even started the storytelling. Mrs. Henry was the head of department at NUS Social Work when I was a student. She was a very colorful and interesting lecturer who brought her experience and observations into the classroom. Her stories brought the somewhat dry and abstract content alive and relevant. For example, the Women's Charter and how that changed the lives of young girls and women. I would like to share 2 stories about Mrs. Wee. At the end of my first year as a social work student, news reached my family that my father, along with his crew of 15 fishermen, were detained in Myanmar. So here's where you need to give me positive energy. I would learn later that the fishing vessel had engine problems and they had drifted from international waters into Myanmar waters. With the help of the MFA, my father and his crew finally returned to Singapore after more than 2 years. During that time, the Singapore Organization of Seamen reached out to my family, and through them, I reached out to the families of the crew to support and comfort the women and young children who had lost their sole breadwinners. It was a painful time for a 20-year-old, still trying to figure out her purpose and direction. And sometimes people would come up to me who have read about our plight. Thank you. And they would offer me financial assistance. But it was Mrs. Wee who asked me how I was and if I was all right. Her love and concern touched me deeply, and left an indelible memory that I carried throughout my professional and personal life. And we forged a special bond between us. My apologies. I don't know how to tell the story without crying. During the examination periods, we sometimes hear of incidents of students giving up or not coping. One year, while a group of us students were hanging out in the social work common room waiting for our next lecture, we heard that a student was running about in campus naked. And then we heard Mrs. Wee had gone out looking for this student, this young lady who was obviously in great distress. After some time, reports came that Mrs. Wee found her. She tackled her to the ground and covered her with a blanket or clothing that she brought and took her to a safe place. Mrs. Wee is someone who inspires us to be our better selves, to respect the dignity of all persons, perhaps especially those young and powerless, those who are most vulnerable, most troubled. She inspired us to live by example. So I'm going to conclude by thanking some people, my family who forgives me when I'm not around, accepts me, affirms me, loves me unconditionally. To all my colleagues, some of you are here, some of you are watching online. I just want to really thank you, my colleagues past and present in NCSS, at the social service agencies, ministries, state boards, who, because you believed in me, you journeyed with me, you laughed with me, you cried with me. And I know a lot of my colleagues who spend more waking hours with me than with their families. And that's the dedication that I get to hang around with and work within. To conclude, since we passed this way only once, and I have been enormously blessed and privileged to study and to practice social work. Through the social work profession, I have strived, as a preacher once put it, to do all the good that you can, by all the means that you can, in all the ways you can, at all times you can, in all the places you can, to all the people that you can, as long as ever you can. May we all strive, as Mrs. Wee has done, to live with the spirit of love and power, not fear. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Tina, for sharing this really touching personal story of yours and your remembrance of Mrs. Wee. And again, like I said, that if Mrs. Wee is here, I'm sure she will tell Tina, do not cry, smile, and she'll give you a hug. Great. Okay, I think we have heard from our three winners, and all three of them are very established in the areas for many years of social work that they have been striving for. And they have not given themselves too much glory and focus in their speech, but they have addressed a lot of how Mrs. Wee has been a personal touch to them and an influence to them. And for the live stream audience, I was looking through the comments that you have put in, and many of you have actually put in your thoughts and your memories, very lovely, warm memories of Mrs. Wee. Thank you for that contribution. So once again, congratulations to the three winners. We have also prepared a video in remembrance of Mrs. Wee. And let's move on to look at the video montage now.
Mrs. Envy was my teacher. I was a 19-year-old social work student.
And always did things very kindly, very gently, and leaving people with dignity.
That she's not only a lecturer, a supervisor, but she cares for me as a person. And that is the envy that makes me stay in the social work profession.
I am very certain many of the things that have shaped the social profession, social education in Singapore, has been shaped by things that she has done.
In the summer of 1944, an 18-year-old Red Cross volunteer was down on her knees, scrubbing the floors of the main building entrance to Howick Hall. Young Anne Wilcox did not know it yet, but this was the beginning of a long legacy, a legacy of social work to come. In 1952, Mrs. Wee began teaching in the National University of Singapore. She taught social work classes and inspired students in her field, an inspiration and a trailblazer for many after her.
Mrs. Anne Wee had a big heart for her students. She actually had a roster to have us see her in her office, so as to know us as individuals.
Firstly, when I decided to do social work in Singapore, she was my teacher at the Singapore University. Then years later, when I decided to be a lecturer in the department, she was my head of department.
Back to my student days, when she was lecturing, it was beautiful prose, non-stop. One huge long sentence with a lot of interesting details, so much so that if you don't follow the train of thought, you're lost. I was grabbed by all the details that she could pepper her long sentence with. There was the main point. There is a main point always, but you have to know how to travel with her. And she has an elephant memory. She remembers all the details. She is in a sense a treasure trove of anthropological insights.
She would never fail to impress us in terms of the insight she had to whatever topic was being discussed, as well as the questions that she would ask. Very sharp questions and very connected to the material itself. That was the impression that many of us were left with. How does she continue to stay sharp, relevant, and at the same time so connected to people?
In 1967, Mrs. Wee applied for the post of department head for the Department of Social Work and formally assumed the post in 1968. During this time, she fought for social work to be retained and an honours course to be added to the department's curriculum. She also served as an advisor to the Ministry of Social Affairs on women's and girls' issues and on the board of both the National Youth Leadership Training Institute and NTUC.
Professor Anne Wee has done tremendous work with women. She was one of the early pioneers in promoting the Women's Charter. She was involved in crafting and inputs the Women's Charter. Today, women's life, women's right has become a good platform for them to be protected.
Anne was always correct, okay? Meaning that you will never see her socially make a mistake. I think she was brought up well and in typical English upbringing, polite, courteous, correct. I have never seen her lose temper, not a single time. But if you are thinking about joking, letting your hair down and teasing and all this, you wouldn't do that with Anne, okay? Because that's not in her nature, except for once. And that was when we were celebrating the department anniversary, and somehow they persuaded me to be MC. So I decided to clown around. And with another student, we co-hosted. And we really brought the house down. And that was the only time Anne let down her hair and started dancing with a broom. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. But we enjoyed ourselves. and many people thought that that was memorable. A different style of Anne which nobody would have seen now.
She eventually retired in 1986, but not before touching the lives of those who worked with her.
When I joined as a faculty member, Mrs. Envy had retired for 2 decades. The support she rendered to the department, however, made her a very important member of the core team.
When I was head of department in the department, she was really such a firm supporter of the department. In fact, she kept always asking me, what could she do for the department? So one of the things that I thought of was to ask her if she could actually give us some money to actually establish this NUS Alumni Award. And that's why we are here today. It's because she really loved the department and she loved the social work profession so much that even after she retired, she wanted to continue supporting and sponsoring our work.
Professor Envy used to take a very deep interest in community studies. She used to sneak in past midnight to see whether we are working or we are skiving. But this is not her intention. Her intention was to come and encourage us. This is indeed a very good example of her interest and her support for the work.
In 2016, I assumed the role of the head of department with fear and trepidation. By then, Mrs. Envy was 90 years old. I still remember the first staff meeting that I chaired. Mrs. Envy attended as usual. After the meeting, I went up to her to thank her for attending the meeting. She told me quietly and with a smile, "I'm here to support you, dear." As a new leader, it really warmed my heart because she was so kind and supportive.
Mrs. Wee was the inaugural recipient of the Lifetime Volunteer Achievement Award. She was honored with the Meritorious Service Medal in 2010 and was inducted into the Singapore Women's Hall of Fame in 2014. But she did not just have an illustrious career adorned with medals and awards. Today, she is remembered for the lives she has touched and the legacy she's left behind. A new generation of impassioned social workers following in her footsteps to make tomorrow a better place for everyone.
With the passing of Anne, there's a passing of an era for the department because she was head of department for a long time. Maybe in years to come, people will begin to miss the history of social work, which Anne had it in her head, all the details, and she could rattle off.
Through her, I learned that it is not only about doing good, but it's being good yourself. So Anne is not just only the mother of social work to me. She is the personification of what social work is.
You know, just sharing this very personal aspect about Anne helped me to actually remember her, not just as somebody who is a teacher, a mentor, but really somebody who is a real example of how one should live one's life while we are still on this earth.
Such a beautiful and lovely video that captured all great memories and legacy. Thank you so much for our pioneers here who has shared these stories. For me, I have not a lot of acquaintance with Mrs. Wee, but I've learned so much through all the sharings that you have given to us today, and I believe for the live stream audience, we have all learned a lot and continue to remember her, and it's never too late. We have now come to the end of the ceremony. Thank you for your attendance and participation. Thank you to the live stream audience, and we will have to cease live stream now. For our audience in Guildhouse, may you have a pleasant lunch and a meaningful time of connection. Thank you.